You ready for the final performance of the evening? Some of you guys have been with me in my world for 10, 15, 20 years. And many of you who have been around my world for that many years, you know that many years ago I used to write musicals. And I used to write musicals that I produced downtown Toronto, which of course led me to writing a significant amount of music. And writing the words and writing all kinds of different songs has always given me a special appreciation for music. And I gotta tell you, this is not a joke. On so many occasions in my life, I've been listening to a Blue Rodeo or a Jim Cuddy song, and I've stopped people and say, no, stop. Listen, this is what I'm talking about. This is what an amazing song sounds like. And I'm always very obsessive compulsive. I go, listen to that poetry. Listen to those words. All right, and then I'm caressing his vinyl. I mean, it's amazing. The guy is a genius when it comes to writing incredible lyrics and to writing songs that you just can't help but sing when you're in your house, driving your car, or walking down the street. He is an 11-time Juno Award winner. Okay? I haven't even had 11 girlfriends in my life. This guy's got 11 Junos. All right? He is a multi-platinum recording artist. He has been given and received the Order of Canada. This guy is all of that and more because he's a great Canadian and he's got a big heart and he's been so patient with us, pushing the evening a little bit back tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Jim Cuddy! How's that for him?
Live up to that.
You like that?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so glad that Marie turned the tide a little bit, got a little bit of irony, a little bit of negativity, because I'm sort of going there. Because, these evenings are wonderful, and they're very inspirational, but I think you can find some inspiration in the negative as well. So since it's all about 10, my topic was that the best advice is no advice. If this is all about mentoring and development, I want to share some of the worst advice that Blue Rodeo and Greg and I received in our career. And I think it's been very important. So, first of all, Greg and I have been musical partners since 1978. He picked me up at Queen's. When I finished, I was going to devote 1 year to music, which became this. And we decided to get a band on the ride back to Toronto, and we've never not had a band in that period of time. So you can imagine, thank you. Greg, thanks you too. So you can imagine that one of the pieces of advice we got from the very beginning was, you can't have two lead singers. You got to pick one. And of course, each of us would think, well, obviously it would be me, but what would we do with you? Now, obviously, it's a completely dumbass thing to say because weren't the Beatles the most popular band that ever was, and they had two lead singers? Okay, so let's go beyond that. So when we finally got a record contract and we were being released in the United States, which was a big deal to Canadian bands in those days, we were on Atlantic Records, and all the amazing stuff that Atlantic Records, and we were taken down, and we were taken into Doug Morris's office, and Doug Morris was the chairman of Atlantic Records. So this was our big shot. And he sat us down, there was a few pleasantries, and he said, so what are you guys, a country band or a rock band? We're like, well, we're both. Well, you can't be both. And you can imagine that the conversation went downhill from there. So nothing really happened, and as we were walking out, Greg turned to me. We were barely out of the door, and he said, what a dick. And I thought that was perfect, because he was wrong. I mean, he was just wrong. I mean, he was a big guy, he could tell us what to do. So early in our career, we were in Toronto for a number of years, and we were told that Toronto was too small and you should move to New York. And we thought that would be a great idea. That's a good career idea. Let's move to New York. That's what everybody wanted to do. The Demics had that song, I want to go to New York City, so we moved to New York. New York is actually the most difficult place to start a band because on any given night, you could see Tom Waits, Tom Petty, Paul McCartney. Nobody wants to see new bands. It's the worst place in the world to start a band. Plus, it's very difficult to keep life and limb together. You have to work so hard. So we'd have bands and things would always happen. you know, somebody couldn't get in because they had some disaster at work, and this would mess up rehearsal. But we did learn a lot down there. And one of the things we learned is that, you know, you would chase everybody down there. You would chase everybody that could possibly get your tape to somebody that could get you a record contract. You'd be going to dry cleaners where Lou Reed did his dry cleaning, and you'd give the dry cleaners, if you can give this to Lou, I'd really appreciate it. That kind of dumb stuff. And that really hit home. After we left New York, we came back, and we had been down there for 3 years. And as soon as we had left a tape around when we left, and we came back, we got a call from this guy, Dave Rabowski. And Dave Rabowski was a big A&R guy. And he said, hey, this is great. I love your tape. When are you playing in New York? I said, we've been playing the last 3 years. We just left. He said, oh, man, if you could just do one more gig. Just do one more gig. So our first gig was February 7th, and our second gig was February 15th in New York at CBGB's. We drove down from Toronto with all our gear in the back, lied at the border saying that we were, I don't know what we said, so stupid. But we got all the way to CBGB's. There were 4 bands that night. Every single band had Dave Rabowski on his guest list, and he didn't show up. Oh, yeah, but you know what? Best thing that could have happened to us. Because we came back to Toronto, and we thought, we are so done with this game. Like, forget it. Anybody offers this. Another thing, people said, you got to have a manager. When we were in New York, we had a manager. He was a cameraman on the soap opera One Life to Live. I don't know why we thought that would be a good manager. But he wanted it, and we're like, God, we got a manager? We are soaring, baby, soaring. So we have this manager. We have an incredibly dumb name at that point. We're called Fly to France. And his idea is that we will wear flight suits. And much to my shame and Greg's credit, I wore the suit. I got in that suit, I went out on the stage, I played the set, and Greg wouldn't. And I remember looking over him and thinking, again, you are right. This is dumb. So by the time we got back here, we were just not going to, you know, we were not going to be bothered with this. Next thing, get a music lawyer. You've got to have a lawyer. You've got to have a music lawyer, somebody who really knows the business, right? When we came back to Toronto, we did very slowly. We were a good big band at the Horseshoe. We had all this kind of stuff, and we just didn't want to get involved. But ultimately, we did get involved with a record company, and ultimately, we did get involved with a manager who was great, but very poor with money. So when he went bankrupt, we were at the record company. No, we were at the lawyer's office. We were at the lawyer's office, and the manager, I'm sure people know his name, but he said, I'm done. I quit. And we said, well, we have to dissolve this partnership. Okay, well, we have to do that. At that point, we realized that the one lawyer that represented John also represented us, also represented the record company. So to do this divorce, we had one guy. And he said to us, well, you know, John seems to need me most, so I'm going to let him, I'm going to represent him. So we had nobody. So we're sitting in this office with the middle of, you know, dissolving our relationship with our manager with no manager. Okay, no managers, no lawyers. Be Katie Lang's backup band. That was when somebody told us when we came back to Toronto, you'll never get a contract, but if you're Katie Lang's backup band for 6 months, I think that'll work. No, that was a dumbass idea. Really dumbass idea. Get a producer. We had a couple of producers along the way. Our third record, we had a producer, and we went down to Los Angeles to do the record, and when we got down there, we realized he had a band in every studio that he was producing at that time. So he had Studio 1, 2, 3 going at the same time. So he was barely in our room. He would go, he had Dwight Yoakam in one, he had Lucinda Williams in another, and us. I mean, we were the poor cousin. He was not coming back to us. So we said, we are paying this guy a lot of money. He's in here 10 minutes a day. That was the last record we had produced by a producer. Okay, so, oh, that time goes so fast. Huh? We realized that when we came back to Toronto, that we were kind of done playing the game. We were done with trying to get everybody to be impressed by us. We were done, and much to the credit of Canadian audiences, no Canadian audience ever asked us whether we were country or rock, and no Canadian audience ever cared whether we had 2 singers. But we broke all the rules when we came back. You were supposed to only play infrequently, and we played all the time. We played and we played long. They hated when we played long. They said, oh, you guys, you never leave them wanting more. We're like, no. We play like every night's our last night. So we're going to play till absolutely shut the bar. And we played, they said, you got to play covers. People love covers. We said, okay, we'll play covers. We played Galveston by Glenn Campbell. We played anything but a popular cover. Anything, anything, anything. We never, ever took advice. We just thought, I think that we know better than you. Because we had 6 years of failure behind us. So what's the worst that could happen? We were already a failure. You know, and we were fine being failures. It was great. We're filling bars, get free beer, you know, people like you. Nothing wrong with being a failure. But truly, the lesson that we got from that is that what you really need to do in the arts, and I assume in most things, is you need to be your authentic self. That every decision you make is a reflection of something you think or that you feel. So everything we did, the way we presented ourselves on stage, how much we played, what songs we chose, how much we rejected, was a way of making ourselves seem like ourselves. And we were lucky enough to come along at a time in Canadian culture where audiences, young people, really wanted that. You know, they were kind of tired of pretending that they were, you know, going down the Jersey Turnpike or you know, all that Springsteen stuff or all the British stuff. And all of a sudden, when bands came along like The Hip and maybe us and Cowboy Junkies, that they looked at the stage and they said, I know these guys. I went to school with these guys. This is me. And I think that that's what started the explosion of Canadian music. I mean, now I think it's easy to imagine that Canadian bands get signed, have this opportunity around the world. When we started, that was absolutely not the case. Nobody thought they were going to get signed. When they did get signed, they were truly themselves. They weren't imitations of other people. Right on 10 minutes. I'm so good at time. So, I'm lucky going last, so I was given an extra 5 minutes, so I'm going to use that to sing a song. So another thing we did when we were starting was we did ballads. Nobody did ballads. That was sort of like, God, you got to be totally sucky to do ballads. And I don't know, we just had this ballad, and we thought, people seem to like it. When the waitresses ask you to do it twice in a night, you got it. Don't tell me I'm wrong, 'cause I've been watching every move that you make. Heart you steal, and your makeup and heels, trouble for the man that you take. Every time you walk in the room, could never be sure of a smile. Never the same way twice, falling in love night after night. It's crazy. Ooh, ooh. So many people who say, oh, girl, you got nothing but time. You are a shining star. Don't worry what you're leaving behind. Every time you walk in the room, could never be sure of a smile. Never the same way twice, falling in love night after night. It's crazy. Oh, you got to try. Why don't you know you got to try? Oh, baby, you try. Oh. We put this song out in the middle of a postal strike. And we got no radio play whatsoever. So we had to re-release it. True. But our drummer was a postie, so that was good. Every time You walk in the room, could never be sure of a smile. You're never the same way twice, falling in love night after night. It's crazy. Oh, you got to try, try, try. Why don't you know you got to try, try, try. Oh, baby, you try. Oh, 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 try. Oh, oh, oh. Thank you very much. Thank you, folks.
Jim Cuddy! Hey, man. Thank you so much. That was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you. Woo! Never in my life have I ever wanted to be a woman more than I have right now. Holy moly! Jesus, I just got hot in places I never even knew existed. That just happened.